Assalamu alaikum. Dear student, this is lecture number 8 and new chapter biology will be explained in this lecture. This chapter basically includes the introduction to biology and the technology and mechanisms which are associated with biology will be discussed. The word biology, it is combination of two Greek words which are bios and logos. Bios means life and logos means discourse or discussion. So what is biology? Biology deals with living things which scientists called as organisms. And these living organisms were previously classified into two kingdoms. This is old kingdom system which includes two kingdom, plant kingdom and animal kingdom. And the plants were studied under the subdivision which is called as botany, and animals were studied under the subdivision zoology, right? But the latest research rejected the old kingdom system and proposed or suggested the new modern system of classification, that is the five kingdom system. The five kingdom system is the modern system of kingdom classification. It depends on the taxonomy of living organisms. On the basis of study of taxonomy of living organisms, this modern kingdom system was proposed. Now we will discuss all the five kingdoms. Number one, kingdom prokaryote or kingdom Monera. This kingdom include almost all the prokaryotes, example bacteria and cyanobacteria, which is also called as blue-green algae. Kingdom Protoctista or kingdom Protista, it is also called as kingdom Protista. This kingdom includes all unicellular eukaryotic organisms which are not classified as animals, plants or fungi, right? The kingdom Prokaryote includes all the prokaryotes, while the unicellular eukaryotes are included in kingdom Protoctista. Example, Euglena, Paramecium, Chlamydomonas, Plasmodium, etc. The next kingdom is kingdom Fungi. It includes all non-chlorophyllous multicellular except yeast. Yeast is unicellular. Absorptive heterotrophs means those species of fungi which get their food from other sources. That's why they are heterotrophs. They cannot make their own food. And absorptive, they absorb their food by the other organisms. Example, agaricus yeast. Then kingdom Plantae, it includes all eukaryotic, multicellular, chlorophyllous photosynthetic autotrophs which have cell wall. These all features are the key features of all the plants. We know that all the plants have cell wall. They are autotroph. They can make their food by photosynthesis. They have chlorophyll. They are multicellular eukaryotes, right? The examples are fern, pines, and apples, and a lot of other, almost all the other plants, right? Kingdom Animalia, they are eukaryotic, non-chlorophyllous, multicellular heterotrophs with no cell wall. We know that in animal cell, we don't have any cell wall, right? The example, Hydra, earthworm, human being, etc. Now, the branches of biology. Modern biology actually is not only concerned with the identification and classification of this species, but it also with also their important structural and functional aspects as well, right? That's why biology has a large number of extremely specialized branches, out of which we will discuss few here, like molecular biology. As its name shows, it is the study of structure and functions of molecules. Molecules which form the structure of a cell. We know that the cell and cell organelles are made up of molecules like protein and other molecules, right? Microbiology, again the name shows micro, Micro means small. So the study of the microorganisms, the smaller organisms, which we can study under the microscope only, like viruses, bacteria, etc. Right? Then environmental biology. It is the study of environment and its effects on the living organisms. Right? It was previously called as ecology. Then marine biology, the study of organisms living in sea and ocean. And in addition to these, not only the living organisms, also with the its physical and chemical characteristics to their environment. Similarly, the study of freshwater organisms with their physical and chemical characteristics of their environment. Then parasitology, it is the study of parasites, their life cycles, their mode of transmission, and their interaction with the host. Then human biology, it includes all the biological aspects of man regarding its evolution, anatomy, physiology, health, inheritance, which comes under genetics. Then social biology, it is the study of social interactions within a population of given organism, especially human beings. This study actually see certain behavior which are inherited or culturally induced or developed. Biotechnology, this is very important branch of biology because it deals with the use of data and techniques of engineering and technology for solution of problems concerning living organisms, especially human beings. Like by the help of biotechnology, a number of techniques have been developed now which are used in medicines and in treatment of different diseases. Example, very simple example of biotechnology in our life, we can see that we go for x-rays. That technology is also developed by the help of biotechnology. Now, levels of biological organization. What are the levels of biological organization? We will discuss how living organisms are composed and what are the gradings or levels which provide foundation of living organisms. As we know that life is built on a chemical foundation which is based on elements, right? Chemical elements. And the basic unit of life is cell. You remember that from your previous class that the basic unit of life is cell, and cell is made up of molecules. The cell and cell organelles are made up of molecules, and these molecules are basically made up of atom. So what is atom? Atom can be defined as the smallest unit of a matter that has the properties of an element, right? It consists of small particles or subatomic particles, which includes neutron, proton, and electrons. Neutrons have no charge and they are present in nucleus. Proton are also present in nucleus and they have positive charge, while electron have negative charge and they surrounds the nucleus, right? Then atoms join together to form molecules by the help of chemical bonding, right? And molecules can be of two types: micromolecules and macromolecules. As their name shows, micro means the smaller one, which are relatively smaller, and they are simple, they have low molecular weight, and they are present in the form of amino acids or glucose in the living system. While the macromolecules, macro means large, so the comparatively larger and more complex with higher molecular weight, these molecules are also present in living system, and in the form of like in protein, fat, right? Then the molecules forms together an organelle, which what are organelle? You have studied in the cell. These are the tiny membrane bounded structures in cytoplasm of the cell which perform specific functions within the cell, right? Like mitochondria, nucleus, and collectively these organelles are present in cell. What is cell? Cell is the smallest functional and structural unit of life. It is also called as building blocks of life, right? When the similar cells combine together, they form a tissue which performs a specific function, right? Like muscular tissue or your nervous tissues. Then similar tissues forms an organ which performs a specific function like heart, lungs, brain, and the collection of same organs which are performing different organs which are performing the same specific function, then it forms an organ system. A number of different organs are performing same function, same specific function, then it forms organ system like our nervous system, which is consist of brain, spinal cord, and nerves, right? Then these organ system present in a living organism will form its body. So what is body? It can be defined as the collection of different organ systems which perform vital functions of the life body, or we can say the organism, right? Species, it is a group of free interbreeding individuals which produce fertile hybrids, which means group of living organisms which can reproduce freely, right? And produce fertile young ones which can also reproduce. Then population and community. This is very important because it comes in your board exam. So you have to understand the difference between population and community. Population, total number of individuals of the same species in a particular area in a particular time. And community is total number of all the individuals of all different population in a particular area in a particular time. What is the difference between population and community? In population, only the same species individual will be found in a specific area, in a specific area, like population of zebra, population of giraffe in a specific area, right? While in community, there will be individuals of different populations, like in a same area we can see zebra, we can see population of giraffe, we can see also population of lion or deers. So these different populations are residing on the same area on the particular on that specific time will form community. Now the biological methods, these will help how to tackle problems in the field of biology. Biologists works on topics or problems to solve them. How? By using systematic methods of different steps, right? And scientists make observation and collects data or facts to propose a hypothesis, which is tentative statement, right? What is hypothesis? It is a tentative statement or possible explanation of an observation which the scientist has took or made, right? It is usually not much supported by experiment, but it provides a guideline for further observation and experiments. Then the inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning is done. After the hypothesis is made, then reasoning is done. What is inductive reasoning? In inductive reasoning, the isolated or individual observations are sum up to formulate a generalized statement. You can understand it by the help of the example that you know that Robert Hooke found the cell. How? He observed small boxes in thin slice of cork, which is made up of wood, and named them as cells, right? And after that, the later scientists, they found such cells in other plants and animals as well. That's why by using these observations, the Shawn and Clinton formulated the cell theory, right? And what is deductive reasoning? In this method, the scientist draws more specific conclusion by deducting all the irrelevant reasons. They conclude and form a generalized statement, right? And it should involve if or then. It uses to extract the small facts which can be studied through experiment. It is basically the narrowing down of the different hypotheses, right? And after these reasoning, theories are proposed, ठीक है, on the basis of um, true hypothesis, that is under the experimental support. A theory is often formulated, and this theory represents a stronger explanation of an observation, much supported by experiment. When the theories are proved to be true under all the tested circumstances or experiment, then they are accepted as law, right? Law, or the general principle, we can name it. So this is the biological method, or the steps of biological method. First, the scientists will take observations, then they collect the data for to prove to make their hypothesis, and after making their hypothesis, they give reasoning. They can be inductive or deductive, and then by the help of experiments, and they conclude their hypothesis and make theory. And after different experiments and tests by different scientists, this theory can be accepted as law worldwide, right? Now we will understand these steps of in my biological method. We will study in it by the help of the example of malaria. How the scientists found that what is the cause of malaria. The first step, they accumulated the data by observations, right? When the first cases of malaria were seen or observed by the scientists of that time, they started observing the conditions on the basis of what the human beings were affected by malaria. And they came to know that there were wherever there were dirty or stagnant water, the water which is not flowing, right, or there is some bad air, the humans get malaria from that, right? So they put the hypothesis on the basis of these observations that malaria is caused by dirty and stagnant water. After that hypothesis, they tested this hypothesis, and after the test they proposed that this hypothesis was not true, because the humans were affected by malaria on the cleaner spaces also, where there was no stagnant water or bad air, but still humans were getting infected by malaria. So that's why they call that hypothesis was not true. So they modified the hypothesis and proposed that malaria is associated with mosquito. And this on this basis of this hypothesis, they formed the theory that the above statement was found true. How? Because they performed a number of experiments, and by the help of these experiments they found that the blood of that infected human has a thing that was similar to the through the blood which was get from the first ever case of the malaria, and they matched those two slides which were of plasmodium. Then they conclude that the malaria is caused by plasmodium, and the plasmodium was also present in the mosquito. That's why it is spreading in humans. The mosquito bite the human, and the plasmodium from the mosquito gets into the body of the human being, and it causes malaria in human, right? And after this conclusion, this conclusion and universal acceptance was given to this hypothesis that malaria is caused by mosquito. We know that it is a universal accepted theory that malaria is caused by mosquito, and we can very easily test it by the simple blood test. The whenever the human beings get malaria, they have plasmodium in their blood. Now, application of biology for the welfare of mankind. By the help of the biological methods, we can construct the things which can help in or benefit to which can provide benefit to the mankind, like in the medical sciences, in medications, in curing the diseases, right? The medical sciences, in the field of medical sciences, biology can help in prevention and treatment of diseases. They can also help to stop the spread of many pathogenic organisms by studying their life cycles and by making their vaccines. So what is vaccination? It can be defined as the introduction of vaccine into the body for immunization of your body against different diseases. The vaccine contains weakened pathogen or bacteria, and it was first introduced by Edward Jenner in 1795. And because of this technique, which is very useful, the smallpox, it is completely eradicated or vanished from the world now. And it also helps to control polio from a number of countries. Pakistan is not yet polio free, but a number of countries are polio free now because of this vaccine. Another example is hepatitis. Then immunization, it is defined as the development of resistance power against the specific pathogen. We have an immune system in our body, but to enhance that immune system, we get the vaccines to develop our power of resistance. Then drug treatment. The antibiotics we use in our normal routine for the curing of disease, these antibiotics help us to control the infectious diseases, and this is another achievement of the biology. Antibiotics actually can kill the bacteria or microorganisms in very small quantity, right? The first antibiotic was penicillin, and it was derived from a fungus, Penicillium notatum. This is very important. Remember that it comes in your MCQs. Due to antibiotic, many critical diseases like TB, leprosy, anthrax, they have been controlled successfully. Previously, because of absence of the antibiotics, the TB was very common disease in past time, and it causes death in many humans, right? Recently, an antibiotic chlorine is derived from a plant, which is for the bacterial diseases. Another very important techniques that helps for mankind are radiotherapy and chemotherapy. These two techniques are used to cure the cancerous cells in the body, right? Radiotherapy, basically the cancerous cells are exposed to UV or radioactive rays, ultraviolet or radioactive rays, while in chemotherapy the cancerous cells are exposed to certain cytotoxic drugs, which are composed of chemicals. They help to kill the cancerous cells of the body. There is another very important role of biology, which is in the field of agriculture. How? The selective breeding, which is very important. This selective breeding helps in earning the better quality and quantity of the crop, as well as it also increases the per acre yield of crop. Then hydroponics or water culture. This is a type of very important culture, or which is used in yielding the different crops, because this is a technique in which the soil is not needed, only water is needed, which is aerated. Aerated means there should be a passage of air, and air should be going through the water continuously. They set up a system in which water is present, and that water is continuously provided with the air, and the plants are cultivated in that water. So hydroponics has been developed to conduct experiments on nutrient requirements of the plant, right? We know that with the different plants have different micronutrients which are very important for our nutrition, and by the help of hydroponics we can experiment and control that nutrient present in different plants. Now, there are advantages of hydroponics, that is, it can control weeds and soil disease. As it is a soilless method, that's why the soil diseases cannot be found in that plant which will be cultivated in hydroponics by the help of hydroponics, right? And they can control weeds. The weeds are the parasitic plants which feed on our crops. So when there will be no soil, these weeds cannot grow in that water culture, right? Then the area required for cultivation will be reduced, as it is cultivated in water, so we don't need the land for the agriculture. And these crops successfully grown in arid parts of the world, which means the drier parts of the world, which where can agriculture cannot be done, right? For example, tomato crops have been successfully grown in greenhouse effect, the area where greenhouses where the these types of crops are kept, right? And um, it also helps to determine which minerals are essential, right? Then cloning. This is very important technique. What is cloning? Cloning is defined as the production of duplicate copies of genetic material. To make a duplicate organ or duplicate cell by the help of its genetic material is called as cloning. We can clone a cell or a whole body of the living organism, right? And the new copy of that living organism of or cell is called as clone, right? Cloning can be natural cloning or it can be artificial cloning. What are the examples of natural cloning? You have observed the identical twins in your family or in your relatives. This is the example of the naturally occurring clones or natural cloning. There are some other examples like the development of tumor, the development of cancer cells. These are all the examples of natural cloning. While the artificial clone, the first ever artificial clone was a sheep, which was successfully developed through artificial cloning in 1997, and they named that sheep as Dolly. The cloning can help in production of medically significant substances such as insulin, the growth hormone, the interferons, and the antithrombin. These are all very important and crucial things which are important for the medication of the infected or deficient patients, right? The artificial cloning but in artificial cloning, the unfertilized egg or ovum is isolated from the female body, and it is done by the help of the removal of nucleus from the egg, and a mature cell's nucleus is taken from an individual of which we need the copy of, right? We introduce that mature cell nucleus into the that egg, unfertilized egg, right? And then that egg is transferred back into the body of the female, and after the development, the normal process, the natural process, new individual with the similar shape, similar structure and character will be produced, and this process is called as cloning. The natural cloning is also occur in plants as well. As we have discussed the advantages, there are few disadvantages of cloning as well. Like the cloning can develop criminal persons, and the paternity of an individual cannot be defined, which is against the Islamic society, the Islamic thoughts, right? Because there will be no father involved or in the fertilization, so that's why we cannot name the identity of that clone. Now, protection and conservation of the environment. There are two main causes of environmental pollution, that is deforestation and industrialization. Industrialization means there are a number of industries present nowadays in the modern era, in which the industries are making new stuff, but they are also causing smoke and polluting the environment, right? Deforestation means the forest area is very reduced because of making new housing societies or using the land for other purposes. We are cutting down the forest, right? Pollution like acid rain that causes skin cancer and carbon dioxide, and also causes greenhouse effect, and air pollution can be overcome by the process of forestation. It is very simple. The the air pollution can simply overcome by the process of forestation if we plant a number of different plants and makes the forest area in that particular area. It will automatically reduce the pollution, right? And it also reduces the risk of shortage of food. Obviously, use of cultural practices like biological control and crop rotations can reduce water pollution. The forestation is the remedy or protection conservation of the environment by the air pollution. And to control or reduce the water pollution, there are two methods, that is biological control and crop rotation. How biological control helps? Because in biological control we don't use the pesticides are the chemicals which are normally we use to avoid the parasites or predators which pest which affects the agricultural field, our crops, right? But these chemicals are harmful and they goes into the soil and ultimately in the water which is present in underground, right? So we can avoid that by using natural predator or parasites of the pest in agriculture field, and that's in that way we don't have to use the pesticide. For example, there are some pests which feed on agriculture field, but there are some parasites which damages those pests or which feed on those pests. So we can introduce those parasite in that particular field, and they will not harm that agriculture field, but they will demolish or end that pest from that area, right? Then crop rotation, it is the technique in which the different crops are cultivated on the same ground in successive year, right, in alternate year, rather than repeatedly growing the same year after year. Like in particular in year only one type of crop was cultivated, and in the next year other type of crop will be cultivated on that same area. It will reduce the chances of the particular parasite of that crop, right? Soil fertility can be increased by introducing leguminous plants. What are leguminous plants? These have symbiotic bacteria which can fix the atmospheric nitrogen into the roots of the plants or the crop.